Welcome back. I'm Karen, founder and managing director of Orchid Leadership Coaching and Consultancy Limited, encouraging you to embrace the leader within. Whether you are a CEO leading a company, an executive leading a team of innovators, an emerging entrepreneur, or a working or stay-at-home parent leading the family and home, now's the time to embrace the future, empower the new you. Welcome to episode 2 of Enlightened Leadership Coaching Snippets from our season of podcasts linking to leadership. In this episode, we'll be deep diving into leading with humility. If you missed our initial episode, don't worry. It's available to download. I'm sure it'll add value to your day. Getting back to today's episode, focusing on humility. When thinking about leadership, the top characteristics that come to mind are probably areas linking to productivity, fearlessness, inspiration, dedication, and strategic thinking. Many people mistakenly still don't associate humility with leadership, and as a result, often give it a label of being weak, feeble, timid, or soft. In reality, this isn't the case. How many of us have been told to be more aggressive in our leadership, to be tough, to be brash, hard and abrasive, when actually these are not areas of strength, but defense mechanisms to hide weakness, fear, and limiting belief. Without humility, our leadership often gives way to ego. Most of us, of course, will become defensive at this point and deny that ego ever evades our leadership. Yet that in itself is our pride and ego talking. The danger of sounding pretentious, invoking a blame culture where we rarely admit to our shortcomings, never letting go of the reins of control, and viewing challenges as problems rather than opportunities, are all areas where ego plays a critical calling card. It is through humility that a leader sees and treats everyone as equal. Humility offers a balance to the apparent power inherent in leadership and brings the humanity to the role, earning the loyalty and respect of a team. Humility is a virtue that is at the very core of impactful leadership. So, if we start with the viewpoint that humility is core to leadership, that humility brings humanity into our businesses and homes, and that humility characterizes us as an empowering and impactful leader. What ingredients do we associate with humility? Some essentials that we shouldn't dismiss, particularly in leadership, are ingredients of mindfulness and gratitude, incorporating acute listening in shaping the culture and humanity of our companies, organizations, or homes. Paying attention to and acknowledging the unique brilliance of each team or family member through trust and integrity is also an essential process to begin that journey of humility. Welcome brilliance in the thoughts and ideas of others to create trust, belonging, ownership, and staying power. But why does humility matter? As digitalization and AI become commonplace in our thinking, behaviors, and actions, the humility within leadership differentiates human from machine. As data continues to grow exponentially, it's no longer possible to know everything. What's required is continual or lifelong learning, where we reevaluate, unlearn, and then learn with purpose and relevance. In this sense, humility takes away the need for leaders to have all the answers all of the time. As learning leaders, we become our own disruptors in order to place the difficult questions and challenges at our own door, enabling us to become agile, self-aware, emotionally and socially intelligent, purpose-driven, and intentional, all achieved by placing humility at the forefront of this essential process. Without humility, we become perceived as dictators, micromanagers, and as people who may well be high-level thinkers, but who don't think at the level of the individual, and in essence we become detached and disengaged. This is not only the case within our business climates, but also within our homes and families. As heads of our families, as parents, who want the very best for our spouse and children, we can't always know everything. We can't always have all the answers and dictate the road ahead. Allowing for shared ideas, collaborative decision-making, and encouraging our children to see decisions from within the process itself can maintain the humanity within parenting, taking parents from behind enemy lines to the negotiating table, and ultimately to team family, allowing both parents and children to become united, collaborative, and motivated to move forward, not just individually but as a family, even through the tricky teenage years. Earlier we mentioned about some of the negative aspects that are created when ego evades our leadership in comparison to humility. So how do we avoid that? How do we invoke and sustain humble practice in our leadership? Let's open that bag up and see what's inside. How is it that we can become self-aware, to lead through example and compassion? Internal work, emotional intelligence, and mindful practices, such as meditation and breath work, can enable us to move from self-absorption to recognition and gratitude of others. Regular mindful practice such as meditation can help us get in touch with feelings and emotions and trigger self-awareness. Gives us that moment of pause and calm to reflect and self-regulate our emotions, improving our emotional intelligence, helping us to become aware of our thoughts, emotions, speech, and behavior. The more we can become aware, the more we can control emotions and not be controlled by them. In our leadership, whether at work or at home, how often have we expected and asked others to do things that we are clearly not willing to do ourselves? And in how many of those instances has that caused a disconnect or a break in trust? How is our expectation affected by our humility? Isn't it true that in our leadership our behavior and attitude will influence and shape the culture of our environment? So it's essential for us to reflect on our humility in our words, actions, and behavior. Thinking and acting on behalf of others instead of ourselves is an area to be considered. At the end of the day, as leaders, we serve our teams and our families, not ourselves. Don't we? As C.S. Lewis quite eloquently put it, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Distributed leadership distinctly shows humility in action, enabling others to share in ownership and ultimately to seek the leader within themselves, a core goal in our own leadership, to make new leaders. This can also lead into servant leadership, where we help those we lead to accomplish their best work and create an environment to support that for the greater good, whether that be the organization or our family unit. Basically, listening and helping more and talking less as leaders gets the job done. Giving credit and taking the blame is an area we often neglect in our leadership, but it is vital in highlighting humble leadership within ourselves. Many of us might wonder what that sounds like. Quite simply, it could sound like, when something goes bad, I did it. I'm at fault. When something goes a little well, we did it. And when something goes really well, you did it. The first part can make us feel vulnerable. Nobody feels comfortable taking the blame for something, and even less to admitting weakness to a mistake. However, our humility enables us to admit to ours and our team's mistakes. We reflect on the impact of our actions on others and move forward by creating solutions or asking others for suggestions and creating opportunities for collaboration through innovation. Admitting to our mistakes shows strength of character and encourages others to do the same. This is as true for parenting as it is for the CEO. Giving a voice to others and silencing our own opinion can bring our humility to the forefront. Accepting, valuing, and celebrating other people's opinions and resisting the desire to say our piece is not being submissive or weak. Neither does it minimize our credibility or authority. It's an act of humility. As a leader with humility, we are open to the fact that we might be wrong. If we want to improve the organizations and families that we lead, we need to be able to accept that those around us may just have the better ideas or solutions. Seeking feedback or feed forward to talk developmentally is a real humility booster. As leaders who believe in receiving feedback, we show we are interested in continuing to grow and learn. We view it as an opportunity to improve our leadership abilities. By asking for and accepting feedback, we are able to create a culture of communication and openness. By showing the value of listening to different views and accepting valid points when they're made, we acknowledge and value others and create a safe environment within our workplaces and homes. How many of us can say with authenticity that our humility leads us to be a role model through our actions and not through our words? Moment to pause and think here. Through our actions and not through our words. Some of us I know love to talk and then talk some more. But are we talking with people or at people? Who is the center of attention? If we are telling people what to do without thinking about what we could be doing, is that from a place of humility or ego? Even if we cloak that as giving advice, let us reflect that if we preach values that we don't yet live by, where will the authenticity and trust be? Gratitude, appreciation, and recognition increases trust, ownership, and productivity. By helping to instill both motivation and discipline, gratitude can play an essential role in creating a healthy culture at home or in the workplace. Grateful leaders have a growth mindset. There is a link between gratitude and self-improvement. The humility that gratitude engenders also makes us more open to critical feedback, which in turn inspires us to want to be better. In this sense, we see ourselves as a continually evolving work in progress. Gratitude generates a sense of connection, which also contributes to personal and professional growth. In a world that demands constant change and evolution, gratitude as an aspect within our humility is a gift that keeps on giving. Something to further consider, and coming back to why humility matters, is it enough just to be humble? The true purpose of a humble and mindful leader is to help grow others in also becoming humble and mindful leaders who will finally outgrow us. We should expect people to grow and move upwards or onwards. This is also something to reflect on within our families. Parenting can unleash many insecurities, and acknowledging that our children may one day survive without us can make us feel very vulnerable. However, the journey entails children to become independent and to leave the nest. Parents have a significant role to play in putting fears aside and supporting this growth process. This means we must set aside enough time for our own growth and enough time that we need to spend with others, whether it be our employees, our teams, or our children, to help them with their growth and leadership or in life journey. A challenge I lay before you: take measure of your humility. Identify areas in your home and workplace where you are authentically humble in your leadership actions. Reflect on those outcomes. Is there impact, feedback, growth in yourself and others? Create an opportunity for self-learning this month, this week even, whether that be some inner work and an increase in mindful practices, or perhaps it's an area of new learning that will motivate new areas of growth. Let's treat humility as our new muscle to flex in our leadership. Working out has never been so impactful to so many. Feel free to share some of your follow-up actions with me on any of my social media platforms. Alternatively, share a comment with me right here after listening. I look forward to our next podcast session where we will be deep diving into leading through coaching and mentoring. This'll be a massive topic that we'll cover together, so tune in next time and get ready to take action after the session. Until then, please remember, if this podcast episode added value to your day or evening, download it, share it with your colleagues and friends, and of course, ensure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. And remember, embrace the future, empower the new you, awaken the leader within, and let's take back control of our aspirations. Thanks for listening.